The Oracle Network. Look deeper.
Welcome to Brew Crime. I'm Mike.
And I'm Beck.
And I'm Nina.
All right. This episode, we're going to be covering Unsolved Missing Persons. You know what? I just thought of something. Since we usually do beer pairings, why don't we shout out what we're actually drinking right now?
Yes, good.
You know, it's still Brew Crime. It's just not paired Brew Crime.
Yeah, so I've got a Main Street Brewing Sour Peach Fruit Bomb that I've never had before today. It's delicious.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't had that one either.
It says, prepare yourself for a peach explosion. We've taken our already fruity kettle sour and bombed it with buckets of fresh peaches. The result is a crisp, refreshing, and crushable peach sour that will detonate your taste buds.
Ooh.
That's a very apt description of what it tastes like. It's delicious. Very refreshing. Not too sour. It's only 4%. It's really good.
Nice. What are you drinking, Nina?
I'm drinking a gin smash by Tempo. It's a Vancouver dry gin company.
Nice.
The flavor is strawberry lemon, and it's 5% alcohol. And it does not have any kind of bougie writing other than what I just said.
And I'm having a Fuggles and Warlock Craftworks Destiny IPA, but this is a prototype number 2.0. I guess they're looking to change up the recipe. And it is, 6% alcohol. It's quite tasty. Now we can get into the cases. So, like I said, this is going to be Unsolved Missing Persons. And we're starting out with Beck today.
Yes. Okay, so my story is called, And Then There Was One. 5 men go in and only one comes out. Or did he? We may never know.
Or dun dun dun.
Yeah, dun dun dun. In the early 1970s, Garry Mathias served with the U.S. Army in West Germany. While there, he developed drug problems and was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was psychiatrically discharged and returned to his parents' home in California to begin treatment at a local mental hospital. He had a few hiccups along the way, but by 1978, he was considered to be an outpatient success story. He was receiving Army disability pay, and he supplemented that income by working for his stepfather's gardening business. His leisure time was spent with Bill Sterling, who was 29, Jack Hewitt, 24, Ted Wayher, Ted was 32, and Jack Madruga, who was 30. The 5 young men enjoyed sports and played on a basketball team together called the Gateway Gators. The team was sponsored by a local program for people with developmental disabilities. The guys were due to play their first game of a week-long tournament on February 25th, and the tournament was a pretty big deal. It was sponsored by the Special Olympics, and the winners would get to go to Los Angeles for free for a week.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty awesome. On February 24th, 1978, so the day before their first game, they went from Yuba City, California, to attend a college basketball game together at California State University, Chico. Jack Madruga drove them the 50 miles, which is 80 kilometers, in his turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego. I tried to get a picture of this just so we could, because I like to have the pictures so we can post. And I swear I found every color combination except for turquoise and white. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he hand painted it or something. Anyway, so Garry also had his license, but Jack Madruga did the driving for this trip. The group stopped at Bears Market in downtown Chico shortly before 10 p.m. for refreshments after the game. When the group hadn't returned home by the following morning, their parents reported them missing. Butte and Yuba County police searched the men's route back from the game, but they did not find the men or the missing car. It would be days later, on February 28th, before the Mercury Montego that they were traveling in was found. It had been abandoned in a snowy, remote area of Plumas National Forest. The car was found on Oroville-Quincy Road, which is a high mountain dirt road that was well out of the way back to Yuba. It was clear that the group had spent time in the car after the market, though, because like the packaging from the snacks they bought were in the car and the program from the game that they were at. So it's not like the car was stolen and then abandoned by someone else. The guys had definitely been in the car.
Yeah, for sure.
The car was mildly stuck in the snow, but it was nothing that this group of able-bodied men couldn't have handled easily. You know, it happens. I'm sure both of you have been stuck in the snow at some point, maybe? Yes?
Yep, I had to leave a work car parked somewhere for like a week at Christmas time because I got it stuck. So
Yeah.
I used to drive a Champagne, so yes, I've obviously been stuck in the snow here.
Yeah. So the car was still in working order when it was found, but where were the 5 men that had been traveling in it? They were very excited about this basketball tournament, so it's not like they would have just run off or something, you know? Jack Madruga did not like the cold and had never been up to the mountains before. And Bill had been in the area as a child with his father, but hadn't enjoyed it and refused to return, even though his father made an annual trip of it. So, like, these guys specifically didn't like this kind of atmosphere. And some of the men were afraid of the dark as well. So why would they leave the car in the middle of nowhere in the cold, and they weren't dressed for the cold, in the middle of the night?
Yikes.
So the search for the men was quite extensive. They searched by foot, horseback, and even helicopter, but further searching had to be called off 2 days later when a severe snowstorm hit and hampered efforts. So it wasn't until June of that same year, after the snow melted, that the story of what happened really began to be uncovered. On June 4th, a small group of weekend motorcyclists came upon a trailer camp that was primarily used as shelter for backpackers. They were very curious, so they went inside, and there they found the body of Ted Waher. The trailer was about 20 miles or 32 kilometers from where the car had been abandoned. That's pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ted's body was found in a state that left little chance that he had been the last survivor of the group. It also proved that at least one of the other men had been in the trailer with him at some point. So he was found with his shoes removed, and he'd been wrapped head to toe in 8 bed sheets.
Wow.
The growth of his beard suggested that he had lived as long as 13 weeks before succumbing to starvation and hypothermia.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
To be lost for that long.
Yeah. By the time he was found, like before he died, both of his feet were so frostbitten that they were almost gangrenous.
Wow.
And he had lost nearly half of his 200 pounds. A nickel ring with Ted engraved on it and a gold necklace that he wore, as well as his wallet with all the cash still in it, were all found on the table beside him in the trailer.
So he basically just like found this place and died.
Yeah, that's
slowly.
what it seems. Yeah. So here's the weird part, though. The trailer was fully stocked with food and heating materials for just such an emergency. It's like why the trailers are there. And there was enough forestry clothing that could have kept all of the men warm, but it was left completely untouched. The trailer's fireplace was still clean, so no fire had been lit, even though matches and kindling were available in the trailer. Investigators did find a dozen empty ration cans, but this was strange as well because like a dozen cans was obviously not enough to feed all 5 men. And the vast majority of the food kept in the same storage area had been left untouched. So there was rations there they could have eaten, but Ted by this point had been found and he'd starved to death.
That's bizarre.
There was enough food there. It would have kept all 5 of the men fed for a year had they opened it. So the opened cans were opened with a P38 can opener, which Garry would have learned how to use during his time in the Army. And a nearby shed held the valve that could have heated the whole trailer if they had have just turned it open. Ted's family later related that this behavior wasn't really that shocking for Ted. Due to his learning disability, he didn't have the same common sense as most. For example, when he was younger, he had to be dragged from his bed even though his bedroom was on fire. He didn't want to miss work the next day and felt that if he left his bed, he might miss work the next day. So, like, he just didn't make the connection, you know? But what about the other men? Like, why didn't they search the storage sheds for anything that would have helped them survive? The following day, only the bones of Bill and Jack Madruga were found. So this was due to the elements and animals, not any, heinous post-mortem act or anything like that.
You know, with when someone's like in the desert and like they start like seeing shit, like they see a McDonald's in the middle of the desert. Like, I wonder if these guys stumbled upon this cabin and were just like, this is make-believe land. Like, there can't actually be food here. So I just don't understand why they wouldn't, even if they didn't explore the cabin, but like what you said, there's like heating stuff and all that, right? Like for the hypothermia, at least something. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's weird.
Or they could be worried because it's not theirs. They wouldn't want to be accused of stealing or something.
On June 7th, Jack Hewitt was found in the same condition, and it's believed that after surviving for some time in the trailer with Ted, he had met the same fate, starvation and hypothermia. So it's possible that him and Ted had been staying in the trailer, but that after Ted passed away, he panicked and ran out, and then he just couldn't find his way back. The only thing they've ever found of Garry were his shoes. But it's possible that he had taken Ted's shoes, which were larger than his, which would make sense because if Garry had gotten frostbite in his feet, they would have swollen. Mm-hmm. So Ted's larger shoes would have been preferable for sure. The group weren't the only ones in the area that night. A local man, Joseph Shones. Joseph later related that he had spent the same night in his car only a short distance away from where the Montego was later found. His car had become stuck in the snow, and while he was trying to push it out, he began to suffer a mild heart attack. To prevent making matters worse, he got back in his car and waited in hopes that someone would drive by. He kept his car running to keep himself warm. He later saw and heard people nearby, so he called out for help, but when he did, the voices stopped, and the flashlights that they were carrying were turned off, which is so fucking creepy. Mm-hmm. Very early the next morning, Joseph's car ran out of gas. Much of his pain had subsided, so he decided to walk to find help. He walked 8 miles to a nearby lodge, and the manager there drove him home, and on the way they saw the abandoned Montego right where Joseph had heard voices the previous night. The parents of the missing men didn't feel that their sons would ignore pleas for help, though. Ted's mother related a story of Ted and Bill rushing someone to the hospital after that person had overdosed on Valium. Just the point of relaying that information is that it's not like they were too shy to go help someone in need.
And, no. They wanted to help someone if they could, yeah.
Yeah, they could be relied on in an emergency. They wouldn't just avoid it. Another sighting came, but was only after the family had offered a $1,215 reward. That's about $4,800 now. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but I mean, these families weren't well off or anything, right? On March 3rd, a woman that worked at a shop in Brownsville, which is about 30 miles from where the car was abandoned, said that the group of men had come in 2 days after their disappearance. And she said they arrived in a red truck. Bill and Jack Hewitt went to the phone booth while Ted and Jack Madruga went inside and bought burritos, chocolate milk, and soft drinks. This sighting was corroborated by the store owner. So that's bizarre. Mm-hmm. The case remains unsolved. While nothing solid has been proven, there are theories. It has been speculated that the group was on their way to see friends of Garry's that lived in the area, but then they got lost. it would explain why they were not on the path back to Yuba. Once they got lost and a little stuck in the snow, they may have tried to follow the trail that was made the previous day by the Forest Service, who were in the area to clear snow from the trailer roof. So the group could have surmised that the tracks would lead to nearby shelter, but unfortunately for them, the shelter was pretty far away and not frequently visited. Like, they could have seen the path and thought, oh, someone's made a path, they'll come back.
Yeah.
Like, in a couple of days, and it can't be that far away, but then it was like 20 fucking miles away.
Yeah, that's really sad.
And and it was like off season for the forestry services to be visiting it. Furthermore, from where their bodies were found, it's possible that Jack Madruga and Bill died before the group even reached the trailer, because their bodies were found between the car and the trailer. Their parents confirmed that the two of them were very close, like brothers. So it's possible that if one of them had collapsed from hypothermia, that the other one would have just stayed. Would have just stayed with them until he also succumbed to hypothermia.
That's so sad.
Yeah. So when the three other men reached the trailer, they broke a window to get in. And they may have thought that it was private property and feared arrest if they used anything that was there, which is what you were saying, Mike. So that would explain why they hadn't used the heat or ate the food. So maybe Garry ate those rations after Ted passed away, like when there was no one else there to be like, no, we shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? But if so, where's Garry? Like, he didn't just vanish. You know, did he outlive the other men? Why did they drive so far into the wilderness, especially in the dark? And why did they stay when they could have just pushed the car out of for the amount of snow that was there, they could have just pushed it out of the way.
Yeah, that's weird.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, the snowbank, I don't know. And then the one guy's just missing? But I guess you have no one who's alive, so what? Bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, but they didn't just get back in the car and go, and so we don't know the answers to these questions, and we'll probably never know because, 4 of the men died, and the other one has never been seen since then, and that was in 1978. So, yeah, it's a mystery for sure.
Definitely is,
Yeah. So there's a lot of information on this, more than I covered probably, and these guys are known as the Yuba County Five. If you want to do more reading, or there's videos and stuff on YouTube about it. But yeah, and that's my story.
Perfect. Yeah, I've heard that story a couple times, but you had some extra new information there. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have heard it before, but that's it's bonkers.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that they were going to this basketball tournament that they were looking forward to. And personally, if I found a house at that point, I would use whatever the fuck is there. I'd be like, sure, you be the asshole who sends me to jail for breaking and entering and using your shit while I'm about to die.
Yeah.
Test me, please.
Obviously it is different for them because like Ted's mom said, especially, that stuff like that just didn't make sense to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
But yeah, it is unfortunate that one of the 3 surviving men who made it to the trailer couldn't have convinced the other 2 that it was okay to use this stuff, that keeping themselves alive was the most important thing. Sad.
Sure is. All right. Well, let's get ready for the next one then. This episode has been sponsored by Best Fiends. It seems that I have so much more time and so much less time on my hands these days. Yes, that contradicts itself, but you know what I mean. I still find a ton of time to play Best Fiends though, as it's just a good way to keep your mind off of things. So when you have some time on your hands, why not try out a really fun puzzle game where you match up colors to help kill the slug population in your garden. The more colors you combine, you will get things like bombs to help kick butt. You also get different goals like collecting starfish and inflating beach balls. Each level is something just a little bit different to keep you interested. You also get to upgrade your bug friends that correspond with the colors you match. Each upgrade makes them just a little bit stronger. This game gets you to collect resources, and while you can purchase them, they never make you. I just made it to level 607 after a good streak of wins recently. Now, this isn't a hardcore game like so many gamers play, but just a casual puzzle game. You can come and go as you please and enjoy the bugs, the slugs, and the cool look of the game. I used to play a lot of other games on my phone, but this is now the only one I load up. Engage your brain with fun puzzles and collect tons of cute characters. Trust me, with over 100 million downloads, this 5-star rated mobile puzzle game is a must-play. Download Best Fiends free on Apple App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends. This is a story that is all too often told.
It began with songs and a prayer for 27-year-old Kaelin Potts, a young First Nations woman who went missing from the Enderby area in February. Members of the Splattseen First Nation had gathered for a day-long search through trails and along waterways, hoping for a sign of the missing woman.
Kaelin Potts would be born around 1989, although I'm not able to find her exact birth date. I just know how old she was when she went missing, unfortunately. She was born in Alberta to Mother Priscilla Potts in Musqueam and was part of the Samson Cree First Nations. She had siblings Ashley, Cody, and Jeremiah. Life was not easy for the children as they would grow up in foster care until Caitlyn was 11 years old. This is not to say that Priscilla was not fighting to get custody of her children. Luckily, Priscilla was able to visit the children while they were young, and she was able to take them out on day trips to the lake for the day and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. She would also come over to the family's house for dinners, so it's nice that they would at least let her be part of the family. This did cause some issues for Caitlyn, mainly attachment issues, and she was trying her best to work through those issues, but it's never easy for children, right?
No.
Caitlyn was still a happy child, and it was said that she could light up the room with her presence. She was always outgoing and had an infectious personality. She always had a really good social life, and she always made people comfortable and at ease. She always loved her time with her family, and she would always make time for them. Caitlyn would have a young son. She would tell anyone that would listen about him. So she was really proud of him.
Yeah.
Into her 20s, she would get into a relationship with Jason that was unfortunately not a very healthy relationship, as he was an abusive man. They would break up and reconcile time and again. She would show up with visual proof of the abuse time and again, with bruises visible all over. One time in Edmonton, he would assault her in a hotel in 2014. And actually, just before we started, because I was just finishing up this story, I found an article by accident. There was actually a video of this assault, and her mother ended up seeing the video, which is awful. I didn't have time to read it, so I didn't get to add it to the story, but just horrible.
Why was there a video, though?
I think it was, like I said, I didn't have time to read it all, but I think it was in the lobby or something.
Oh.
So there was, or maybe in a hallway with the camera.
Right.
After that, she would move in with her sister Cody. Jason would move to Enderby, BC for work, though, and after a time, Caitlyn would follow him there. She would leave him once again after calling her sister and saying, quote, "She called me crying and she was hiding in the bathroom, saying he was outside and he was going to kick the door in." So, loser.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. This would lead to her moving into a woman's shelter in Salmon Arm. She was holding a steady job, though, at Tim Hortons and was also going to school. But unfortunately, like with so many abuse cases, she would end up back with him only a few months later. She would then leave him again at the beginning of February 2016. February 21st, 2016, would find Kaelin Potts in Kelowna in the Okanagan Valley of BC. I spent a lot of time there, too. It's a nice place to be. Mm-hmm. She would call her roommate back in Salmon Arm to tell her that she had found a ride back to Calgary to visit her family back in Alberta. This person was found on Kijiji, a site in Canada much like Craigslist. You heard of Kijiji?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not very common here, but it's really popular in Ontario.
Yeah, well, it's actually really popular in the Okanagan Valley, too.
Yeah?
Yeah. On February 22nd, 2016, she would send a message to her sister on Facebook saying, quote, "Coming back tonight for sure." She would then text Jason that morning and tell him that she was mad at him as he still owed her some money. This was the last day she was ever seen. The RCMP would get an official missing persons report on March 1st, but they did not even put out an official missing persons report until March 21st.
I said, what?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I know after you're done your story, Mike, like when I get into mine, but like it's such different circumstances, and it's so stupid. I'll explain why later, but like that long for someone to be missing who has a
Family
record, has family, kids, like who's responsible, job. It's just fucking doesn't make
it's bullshit.
sense.
Yeah.
I cannot find any other reason for this than the systemic racism against First Nations people, especially First Nations women, that continue to this day to disappear without a trace all across Canada, let alone British Columbia. Like, there's just no reason that there was no follow-up. People will use this kind of racist rhetoric to try and minimize a person's worth, blaming it on drugs or bad families. But these are all symptoms of and excuses of a system that beat down an entire group of people for generations. These women and these people matter, period, and they deserve to have the same investigations as other people that go missing in Canada.
Yeah.
That go missing anywhere.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah. We're
this
talking
is-
about Canada in this case.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure the systemic racism against First Nations, or they don't call them that in the States, but I'm sure it's the same there, right? Indigenous people there, but I don't know their stats. After 4 months of Caitlyn missing, the family was getting more and more worried. When the RCMP showed that they were not willing to look for Kaelin Potts, her mother Priscilla would reach out to the First Nations groups in the British Columbia area. She would connect with Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, the chief of the Penticton Indian Band, and the president of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. And he's been that since 1998, so he's been in that chair for a long time, yeah. Stuart Phillip would be quoted as saying, "The RCMP have not been conducting a vigorous and robust investigation, and consequently, there are far more questions than answers."
And I think this is part of the culture of our peoples to help others. And like I said, Caitlyn's not even from this province, but we're here because she's from, in our territory. We're here to help.
Priscilla Potts, Caitlyn's mother, joined political heavyweights at the table, with some calling for more effort from the RCMP.
I think when she went missing in February, and until today, what I understand, there's been no active search party that has taken place. So, I mean, yeah, we need to call the RCMP into action.
But I think the community can rest assured that there have been extensive efforts in a variety of forms. Different resources have been put into place physically on the ground in the area.
With the crisis that's happening across Canada from coast to coast to coast, that the RCMP need to play a more active role. And
50 people would be involved with a door-to-door search, as well as a search of rivers and roads in the area. And Cody and Priscilla Potts would be part of this group. They traveled over from Alberta. The majority of the people in this search would be of the Sequapemk people. They would conduct searches in Enderby, Maple Lake, Grinrod, and also along the Shuswap River. Caitlyn went missing off of a stretch of Highway 97, and this is one of the highways that is part of the British Columbia's Highway of Tears, a topic we're definitely going to cover in the future. Kaelin Potts would be missing for a whole 4 months with no word, and of course the family was becoming more and more concerned. This next bit is really quote heavy, so it's all coming from one source. "I used to tell her everything. She was so outgoing and bubbly, and made everyone around her feel comfortable and happy. There is no one that can replace her," said Cody, her sister. "We were very worried," said Priscilla Potts. Caitlyn, 27, led a socially active life. Her lack of online communication with friends and loved ones is out of character. "We believe that someone must have information about Caitlyn and perhaps know where she is right now," said Priscilla. "We also need to hear from anyone who may have had contact with her or have seen her since she was last heard from. I miss my daughter. Not hearing from her has caused me a lot of worry and grief, as any parent can understand. We simply need to hear from her so that we know she is okay." So if someone made her disappear, I cannot understand how this could happen. So that's the end of the quotes here.
Mm-hmm.
In October of 2016, there would be a ceremony held in both Caitlyn's remembrance as well as in remembrance of all murdered and missing Indigenous women. This is one of many such ceremonies held across the country. More searches would be set up by Jody Leon of the Splatsin First Nations. She would organize many searches on behalf of Priscilla and the family as a whole. This would include a search using a drone for not only Caitlyn, but also for Ashley Simpson, Nicole Bell, Deanna Wirtz, and they're all women that are missing from that area. Moving forward all the way to April 2017, the RCMP would finally release some surveillance footage of Caitlyn that was shot in Orchard Place Mall in Kelowna. It's kind of weird that it would take like a year to release surveillance footage.
Yeah, that's just not right.
No, because there's no way they wouldn't have had it, because surveillance footage is wiped out after a certain amount of time, right?
Exactly.
So the footage was taken on February 21st, 2016 at around 1:30 p.m. So the last time she was ever seen was the day before she went missing, and that was more than a year before this video was released to the public, like I said. What was the reason for waiting this long? In this video, she was seen wearing a 3/4 length black jacket with a hood, light-colored pants, black winter boots, and a hair tie. The video also shows that she was holding a light brown purse or handbag that was made of leather, as well as a white cell phone. With this release, they also announced that they suspected that she had succumbed to foul play. The police would also say that they did not think that Caitlyn would have made it out of the Okanagan region of BC. They would go on to say that there was no evidence that could point to the fact that she could have made it to Calgary, even to Alberta in general. But again, this was a year later.
Yeah.
Moving on to May 2017, Jason would see his day in court for the 2014 assault on Caitlyn. He'd be found guilty of assault with a weapon and breaching condition of recognizance, but 2 other charges laid against him would be dropped. Of course, he would claim that the media was spreading lies about him, and he even would state that he was never Caitlyn's boyfriend, and would go on as far as to say she had never lived with him. But he would end up admitting that she had stayed with him a few times. He would even try and say that she was working as an escort and try to minimize her worth to the general public.
It doesn't fucking matter, even if she was.
Exactly.
It's not pertinent.
Yeah, no. But he knows people, and he knows how fucking stupid they can be about that kind of stuff. The RCMP will not say if he actually is a suspect in Caitlyn's disappearance. In April of 2018, there would be a fundraising campaign to help in the search of Caitlyn, Ashley, Deanna, and Nicole in the Enderby area. October 4th, 2018, there would be a red dress walk held in the area as part of the overall Red Dress campaign, which is a Canada-wide initiative looking to inform the public about just how many missing and murdered Indigenous women there are in this country. And I think this is probably part of that whole thing, too, with that new red hand on the face, like the red paint. Have you seen that one? With the
yeah.
Yeah, I have to assume it's probably involved with that, too. The RCMP do believe at this point that Caitlyn has passed away, but will not say at what point they came to this conclusion. They do think that she was murdered, though, but to this day, her body has not been found. They do state, though, that the case is still active, whatever that means. Like, they haven't really tried that hard the whole way through.
Why did it take a fucking year to post a video of her last whereabouts?
Yeah, I don't know. So there are a couple of theories on this case. So this first 3 theories came from storiesoftheunsolved.com. One theory in the case is that Jason was involved in Caitlyn's disappearance. Given the pair's history, including his abusive behavior and the assault conviction, some have speculated that he harmed Caitlyn in some way. However, no evidence has been publicly released to support this, and the RCMP have not stated that he is a suspect in the investigation. As stated above, Jason has denied being in a romantic relationship with Caitlyn and does not recall the last time he was in contact with her. Number 2, some hold the theory that Caitlyn could have met foul play at the hands of the person she met on Kijiji. Both her roommate and Cody had received messages from Caitlyn where she said she was to be traveling to Calgary with someone she met on the website. However, the RCMP have stated that they have no evidence to support this trip, so it's unknown if this person exists or if Caitlyn had actually met up with them. Then 3, a final theory is that Caitlyn was the victim of a serial killer in the area, given the women who had also gone missing at this time, Ashley Simpson, Nicole Bell, and Deanna Bell. Some have speculated there could be a serial killer at work. It has also been stated that Caitlyn could be part of the Highway of Tears in British Columbia, as I mentioned before. Far too many women, many of them First Nations, have gone missing over the years on the highways of northern BC and into the Okanagan on that Highway 97 and others. Kaelin Potts is described as approximately 5 feet 3 inches tall, 150 pounds, with brown eyes and long black hair with blonde streaks. Anyone with information is asked to contact Vernon RCMP at 250-545-7171 or anonymously via Crime Stoppers at 1-888-222-8477.
We're still waiting for answers. I'm still sitting here wondering. She was working through some things, and she was involved with a man, and they were, doing things getting into things that they shouldn't have got into and whatever, and the relationship wasn't good at all. She was smart. She was very smart. But, to make some of the choices that she made, I think it was hard for me to watch her, do some of those things and not be able to do anything about it as a parent. And just knowing and believing, I know answers are coming, but at the same time, it's scary because I'm wondering, is today?
That's my case. It's really sad. And I mean, like I said, we'll probably cover the Highway of Tears in the future here, but there are just way too many women going missing from northern BC and into the Okanagan there, and a large portion of them are First Nations women that just never are seen again. All right, we'll get ready for the next one. This episode of Brew Crime is brought to you by Podcorn.com. When you started your podcast, did you have any idea how many costs there'd be involved? First, you need a host. Then there's the website. Next, there's the equipment that constantly needs to be upgraded to make you sound better. And then there's sometimes a hardball that's thrown by the world and completely change how the podcast is produced. Now, indie podcasts no longer need to try and reach out to corporations and try to sell them on putting ads on your show. Now, Podcorn.com is there to be the middleman and reduce your stress levels. Podcorn does the legwork and finds the brands that want to advertise on podcasts and compile them on their website. From the dashboard, you can reach out to those brands and pitch them on what you can do for their brand. You can pitch all kinds of things like pre-roll and mid-roll ads, contests, guest interviews, and more. During the process, you get to set your own rates to boot. Podcorn also protects and supports your show to ensure that you are compensated for the work you do for their brands. We have been lucky enough to work with the awesome brands Best Fiends, Ballsy, and Hi-Fi Candle Studios, on top of working directly with Podcorn.com. So if you're looking to take your podcast to the next level, make sure you head to Podcorn.com now and sign up. You will not be disappointed with your choices. Explore sponsorship opportunities and start monetizing your podcast by signing up here today. Podcorn.com/podcasters.
Okay, so for my missing persons case, I'm going to talk about the disappearance of Natalie and Holloway. Yeah, it's interesting talking about this case right after hearing Mike talk about his, because just drawing at some of the comparisons, and I mean, this girl is missing. We need to find who she is. And obviously it's nothing she did or didn't do, but it's just very interesting the police's involvement. And Dutch army sent planes to try to find this girl within like hours of her going missing. And here we can't even get a fucking video posted until a year after. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little annoyed at that. But I'll get into talking about Natalie's disappearance. I found it difficult to research facts for this case, mostly because everyone had an opinion. And I'll talk about one of the people that they assume was the perpetrator who had something or involvement in her disappearance. And, well, he fucking loved going on camera and saying what he did, what he didn't do, and retracting comments. Made the executive decision to focus mostly on the details that I found directly on FBI's website. So Natalie Ann Holloway, she was 18 at the time of her disappearance. Natalie was last seen on May 30th in 2005. She was currently on vacation in Aruba with some of her classmates. Natalie and her classmates, of course, had just graduated high school, and they were on an unsanctioned senior class trip. From what I found, there was almost 100 students that went. They did have several chaperones that also joined them. Definitely a lot of partying, a lot of, mischievous behavior. Kids just looking to have a good time, especially before going into different colleges, universities, kind of like a big last hoorah with all of their friends. From everything that I saw, they're good kids. Obviously, teenagers were drinking and stuff like that, but you couldn't find anything like Natalie, for example. She had a full ride scholarship to go to university, good student, well liked, like definitely, and I'll share her picture, but all American girl. Blonde, blue eyes. I made a typo here and I wrote she's 410 pounds. She isn't. She was 110 pounds. Just, yeah, it was a bad typo. I tried to write 5'4", 110 pounds. I wrote she's 5 foot, 410 pounds.
Oops.
No. Basically just small town girl, all American, like nothing. Couldn't find anything, nothing. So to talk about kind of the last known whereabouts, there is a nightclub in Aruba called Carlos and Charlie's. They close around 1 a.m. A lot of the classmates, this was the night before they were all supposed to travel back home. Went out partying, of course, and as that club started closing, some of the students went back to the Holiday Inn, which is where they were staying. Some went to the bars around Carlos and Charlie's. Natalie, specifically, was last seen at 1:30 outside of this club, leaving in a silver Honda with 3 young males. One was Joran van der Sloot, who was a Dutch native living in Aruba. And there was also Kalpo and Satish Deepak. They were 2 brothers. She was essentially seen getting into their car, and that was it. From here, a whole mess ensued. How they figured out that she was actually missing is the following morning, they were all gathering to get together to go to the airport. She wasn't there. Some went back to look for her in the hotel room. All her personal belongings, passport, everything was there untouched. So obviously she never made it back to her room. And that's it. That's all that's known.
Jeez.
That is the actual only concrete detail is that. Now that's when it gets messy because you have these 3 guys that she got into the car with. They were obviously picked up by the police right away. And it was interesting. So originally they said that they don't know who she is. Then the next story was, oh yes, they remember, but they just dropped her off at the hotel. Then the next story was that the 2 brothers who owned the vehicle dropped her and Joran off somewhere. It was weird. And looking at some of the reports, essentially Joran and the brothers kept conflicting each other and kind of saying, well, no, she was with them, he was with her, whatever. And they don't know what to believe. At one point, they said that they saw her go off with a guy who looked like he could be a bodyguard or a doorman from one of the other hotels. I think this was from the Marriott Hotel. And they checked all the video footages from the Marriott Hotel and all that. She was not on any single video footage. All of their staff, everyone's accounted for. It sounds just like a bullshit story. Mm-hmm. So the brothers were released. From the reports, it looks like they believe the brothers more than they believe this Joran guy. So they did not have enough evidence to hold him, and he was essentially released. Now, within pretty much 48 hours of her going missing, her family actually from the United States flew into Aruba. They had the national police. As I mentioned, I think earlier, like literally the Dutch military lent planes to have planes fly around to see if they can locate her. There was divers that were brought in. I think she had gone missing on the 30th, couple days after they actually had like a national day off of work to have everyone in the community off searching for her, trying to find her. Nothing was found. Wow. Like, it's like she freaking got abducted by aliens. She was gone. So it was frustrating listening to your story, Mike, because it's like, there is a video, there's this, there's that, and nothing. Yeah. Where with her, there's nothing, and they just did. Everyone and their aunt and uncle and dog searched for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. Something that was interesting while looking into this is the amount of media coverage that was given for her disappearance actually received a lot of criticism also, mostly because, and I'm going to quote this one article, it's a missing white woman, so everyone cares. Obviously, that's awful. That's what some people are drawing a conclusion. But at the same time, like, holy crap, how many other missing people are in the world, women, men who aren't this blonde American Barbie, right?
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, yeah, that does seem to be a trend around the world.
Mm-hmm.
As far as her actual case is, that's it. There's no idea. Basically just gone. As far as people who they think committed it, didn't commit it, the biggest one that I noticed was Joran van der Sloot, who I talked about was the Dutch native. So it's a couple of interesting things that happened with him. So on one of these occasions, Joran was actually caught on tape saying that, yes, he sold her to the sex trade to someone. And then when he was confronted with this, he said, nope, I just made that up because the guy I was talking to, I think that's what he wanted to hear when he was questioning me. What the fuck does that
What
make?
the fuck?
Yeah, what the hell is that?
Okay, well,
It went to
whether
the
it's
police.
true or not, then you're a fucking dirtbag.
Yeah.
What the hell?
A judge looked at it and said that that's still not enough evidence to do anything with him. On the other side that he said is that she had some seizure and they freaked out, didn't know what to do with her, and they just dumped her body into the ocean. And then also afterwards he retracted saying, nope, I also lied. Sorry, I just needed to say something.
Oh my god.
So to make things weirder, sometimes I think when someone gets off with something, I'm very worried that they're going to recommit or do something bad. Right. So you might be asking yourself, or I was, where the hell is this Joran dude right now? Well, he's in jail because in 2012, he was convicted of murdering another woman who went missing in 2010.
Jesus.
Yeah, this time it was Stephanie Flores Ramirez. She went missing in Lima, Peru. And he was found guilty of murdering her. He's serving a jail sentence right now. Like, he's done.
Well, at least there's that.
It still doesn't solve where Natalie is, what happened to her.
Yeah, it's no peace.
But it's still very fishy of, okay, what are the chances you're going to be involved in a single missing persons event?
Yeah.
And then 2, and being guilty of 1.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Obviously, my opinion is the brothers did say that they dropped him off with her because he was going to go on with her. I don't know. He did something bad.
I think so too.
No body was ever found. Nothing. Natalie's parents asked a judge in 2012, January 12th specifically, if they can declare her legally dead, which they did. So that's that. So I'll post, obviously, to the page, there's just information on FBI, where to go to contact if there's anyone who has any information or knows anything. I think it's incredible how her family's been able to keep her name in media, keep up that public awareness and asking for more information. But that's crazy. There's just nothing. It's like she just fucking disappeared. But yeah, and that's my story.
Wow. Trio of terrible stories.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense, and I don't know. It's tough talking about it because I don't know, how do you just go missing? And then I feel like this guy Joran had to do something with it, but not a shred of evidence. And what kind of mastermind could he have been? I think he was maybe, I could find it, but I think he was around her age, so not much older. So very, very sketchy, very bad, leaves a bad feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. You can find us on all social media at Brew Crime. You can go to our website, brewcrime.com. You can email us if you got any suggestions for cases or if you just want to connect with us at brewcrime@pacificbeerchat.com. You can buy our merch at brewcrime.threadless.com. You can get shirts and phone cases and all kinds of other stuff. A skateboard, I think. And if you want to support us on Patreon, it helps us make the show better, and it also gets you one bonus episode a month plus early access to our episodes ad-free. So you can go to patreon.com/brewcrime. Shout out to our Patreon supporters. We've got 3 Beers In Podcast, Amber, Ange, Daniela, Nina's Mom, the Faves of Our Lives Podcast, and True Crime Nana. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Brew Crime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo design was by Ben Greenberg. All cases and stories were written by Beck, Nina, and Mike, and our sources are put into the show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at brewcrime.threadless.com, where you can purchase swag like t-shirts, phone cases, beach towels, and all kinds of cool stuff. We can also be found on your favorite podcast apps, our host, Spreaker.com, or brewcrime.com, as well as at Brewcrime on Twitter, at Brewcrime on Facebook, at facebook.com/groups/brewcrime. Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Pacific Beer Chat.
Small Town Secrets is a podcast that explores the secrets and strangeness of small towns across the globe, be it paranormal, true crime, or just plain weird. Every town has a secret. What is yours? Do you have a story to share of a town that you've lived in? Then head over to stscast.com and use the submission form at the bottom of the page, and it might end up on the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at STScast. Available now, wherever you get your podcast.
Hello, this is Eric Carter Lundeen, the host and producer of True Consequences, a true crime and mystery podcast with stories based in New Mexico and the American Desert Southwest. We'll uncover cases such as the Toy Box Killer, one of the worst serial rapists and suspected serial killers in New Mexico's history. We will also discuss mysteries such as alien sightings, as well as hauntings and other weird things that happen in this area of the country. I hope you'll give me a chance and listen to True Consequences. I think you might enjoy it. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Beck's first, Mike's second, and I'm last?
I think so, yes.
Oh, there's
Does
two.
it sound funny to you guys when I say, and I'm Beck? Does it sound like I'm saying a question?
No?
No.
When I hear it in my head, I always go up at the end, like you do for a question.
And I'm
And I'm just like, stop doing that. But then I do it every time.
And I'm back?
Yeah, I'm like, and I'm Beck? Like, no, I'm sure. Weiher. Does anyone know how to properly pronounce that last name?
Nina?
Weiher.
Can you spell it again, please?
Yeah. It's Weiher.
Michigan?
Yeah, okay. Call back to the last episode. It would be days later on February 28th before the Mercury I'm going to do that again. Blah, blah, blah. We'll get into some theories.
Oh, okay,
for sure.
let's not ruin the theories.
Yeah, that's okay.
Anyone need a drink break or a washroom break?
I'll probably run out of this beer before we, I'll be right back.
That's why I'm getting another one.
Okay. My fridge isn't right beside me.
Oh, I put some in my little cellar. My
Yeah.
solo house party.
Nice.
I'm going to try
the
that
spelling?
again. Well, I went phonetically and then the real spelling.
Oh, okay.
It's the real spelling is MASKWICIS, but it's pronounced more like MUSKWACHEES. Musquachis.
Wow.
I'm going to start that sentence again, yeah.
Sure. Nope.
Wow.
Sorry.
No worries.
My nosh tickle.
Here, let's try this. HNATIUK. Nutik? Nutik? What do you think? Anyone?
Nope.
No.
I'm just going to say Jason. Should get into a relationship with Jason. Fucking hell. Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed everything in the last minute or so. The screen went completely black.
I was playing a video in sound clip.
I'll play the sound clip again then. It's fairly short.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear any of that. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, it's 53 seconds, so I'll play it again. I'm hearing lots of...
I think Nina was just adjusting her.
Okay. He would even try and say that he was working... He would even...
Remix.
Remix.
Paula, can you hear me from a distance, or do you want me to put the tablet a bit closer?
It's a little echoey now or a little more echoey. I can't even speak anymore. It's a little more echoey than it was, but it's not bad. Oh, man.
Is that a little bit better?
Yep.
Okay.
As soon as I get some weird pronunciations, I just start stuttering.
There's lots of partying. These kids were drinking and all of that. I mean, they're 18. They just finished high school. And
You're
most of them are
again.
going to universities, colleges, and things like that. Yeah?
That last sentence just sort of... Just do
Hey,
that sentence. Just that sentence.
It's hard to say that sentence when I'm just talking.
Sorry. No, it's just because the audio is going to be terrible. That's the problem.
Sorry?
The audio was going to be terrible.
I'll just start that piece again then.
Okay,
and I'll
sorry.
talk a bit more.